Welcome to Soft Bites Podcast. Your life, your dentistry. We talk about ways to have more fun and meaning in one of the coolest and most rewarding professions in medicine. Conversations on how to bring awareness, create a healthy workplace, and provide emotional insights to make dentistry a fulfilling activity while making space for one's wonder, creativity, and freedom. Here are your hosts, Manuela and George Andre.
Yes.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone.
Hi,
Welcome.
Manuela.
Hello, Andrea. How are you?
I'm fine. The summer is ending, but I
Yeah.
can't complain. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah. Me too. Me too. But I just came back to Portugal, and I have this feeling of summer sadness. I think there's a Lana Del Rey
Oh,
song. There's
Lana Del Rey, exactly.
summertime sadness, and I have that now. But okay,
But you're in
it's
Belgium now, right? You came back from
no.
Portugal.
Yeah, I came back from Portugal, but I'm actually in France, in the south of France, in the mountains.
Okay.
And Saturday. I'm going to Belgium. Yeah, but here it's already it's already autumn for us Portuguese. It's already autumn, so it's 19 degrees maximum temperature, and lots of
Jesus.
clouds. So it's completely different from the weather I had in Portugal in the last week. But okay,
I was in Brazil for 1 week, about 2 weeks ago.
Yes, I know.
And it was their
How
winter,
is
but
it?
it's such a lovely place. I have family there, so they treat me so well. And I feel so spoiled over there. So if you mix that Brazilian kindness with family, it's just amazing. I
You had
had
a good time.
I had a good time. Um, I was quite tired from traveling, and I went there to a wedding, and I enjoyed a lot of time with my family. It was just great. It was just great.
That's
So
great.
I felt the same summertime sadness when I came back to Portugal. So it's not about where you are; it's about what you leave behind, isn't it? That's the
True.
issue.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. And that is. It's the feeling. It's the feeling. It's not the weather. It's not the temperature.
It's the
It's the feeling.
feeling.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about the feeling also. A heavy one. We're going to talk about failure and how to and how to dealing with failure. And I think because I think it has a heaviness to it, failure, the word and the feeling. So I think it's really good for us to have this conversation and to maybe to bring a little bit the light side of failure, maybe reframing it
Yeah.
a little bit. And when I was thinking, and you also told me that we don't actually prepare and we don't have a script for our conversations, but we
Mhm.
always think about the different subjects and different themes that we are going to talk about. And you were telling me that you were also thinking about it before our conversation, and today I was also thinking about it, and I remember this conversation that I had with an American colleague, and it was not about the clinical failure; it was about business failure. And he was
Mhm.
telling me that in America they have a different approach from us in Europe. So it's like
Mhm.
for you to be successful there, you need to fail a lot. So, for example, for people to invest in you, they need to know that you already failed, that you already have the experience of failing. And here in Europe, I don't know if in all countries, but at least in the ones that I know better, it's like failure. It's something that we are very ashamed about. It still
Yeah.
have this negative connotation. And again, I'm talking about the business side, not on the clinical part. We're going to get to that. But tell me, how do you feel about failure? What is the feeling of failure for you?
I think I think that what you just said, that we Europeans, like the whole world, still has a lot of uh, Christian influence, isn't it? We
Mm-hmm.
still have a lot of what does the neighbor think of us? I mean,
Yeah.
isn't it? I think it's a lot about. I think, and I am Christian. I was baptized, and there's nothing. We are just talking conceptually, but we still have a lot of this weight that we need to be up to certain standards regarding how others are seen, right? So um, if our friends, if they have this house, if they are married, if they have two kids, then if we don't do the same, if we don't follow the same path, and we don't make the same money, we are different, isn't it? And I think there's still that weight in Europe. And, there's not only that weight, but also there's something that is very associated with Christianity, which is the fact that you have to, in some way, pay for your, you have to suffer from your mistakes. And if this happens in life, this is fate, and there's nothing that you can do about it. Of course, that I'm exaggerating, but there's still in Europe,
Mm-hmm.
it's still that
A
cloudy
lot of
presence of
reflex of that. Yeah.
yeah. That's my opinion. But I have to say that I over the last, I would say, maybe 10, 20 years of my life, I've tried to see things as clearly as possible in what concerns my feelings. And it's not that I'm more European or more American, but I think that at the end of the day, success and failure, it's yes, it's true that you have to fail and you have to normalize failure, but actually, in business, of course, and you have to normalize that, because nothing appears done from one day to the other, and it takes, I would say, it takes sometimes 10 years, 20 years for any business to start to um, really have its returns, and that you can feel that you are successful, and that you can, and then you are financially stable. At least it took me about 15, 20 years so that I could not push so much the accelerator, at least in my practice, and maybe in my courses as well. It took certainly 10 years for me to be able to have a consistent flow of students and to be consistently invited to the conference and stuff like that. So it takes time, and it's all those small mini failures that eventually will lead to the place that you are. So yes, from a business perspective, I agree with you. I think that you really have to. I think that you use the right word. You have to reframe things. You have to realize that success is nothing more than a huge amount of small failures and corrections, because it's the mistake that eventually pushes us towards something that we can do different, or do better, or work harder, or use a different strategy. But yes, I really think I think that you have to in certain situations, even, and we'll talk about that, you really have to celebrate some fears, and you have to in a way use that strategy that the Stoics, that Greek Stoics use, which is love whatever happens, even if it's a bad thing, because there's an
Mm-hmm.
opportunity there. There really is an
Mm-hmm.
opportunity for growth and for change, and this is in business, but also in your life. I think that, and in this year, for example, over the last year, I've been through some struggles, both personally and both in business, and I think that my biggest breakthroughs and was when I sat down with a feeling and realized that, try to realize the positive part of that. So I this gives me the opportunity to be a better person, to not do the same, or to keep giving, even though I was in any way felt that it was not that I was not taken well care of, or that people were not fair to me. So I think it's also an opportunity for you to change yourself, because you're always changing. Because I think that sometimes what happens in failures is that, so you read these books and you say, well, failure, you have to accept it. But one thing is reading it, and the other thing is to really be in a difficult situation, whether it's in business, and then really feel it and really use that situation to well, this is an opportunity for me to become better.
I think the first step
just accept the failure.
Yeah, what you said is very important. The first step is it's not to accept the failure, it's to accept your emotions about the failure. Accepting the failure comes after. And to reframe and to see to see it as a growth opportunity, etc. It comes after. First, you have to accept your emotions, and that comes the part of self-awareness that we already discussed. So you have to recognize and you have to accept your emotions.
I'm learning something with you and with this podcast, isn't it? I mean, I can't be talking to you and not learn anything. So I think that I really think that
we learn from
learning.
each other. Huh? We learn
Yeah,
from
but
each
I don't
other.
know if I don't know if it is experience or if it is the podcast or if it's you. But whatever it is, I think I'm getting better at it. Not perfect, but I am getting better. And this last year was something. It really tested me. It really tested me, and I think everything in life. Sorry, everything in life comes in ups and downs, right? I was in a down, now I'm in up, but whatever happens, the next down will come again, and I just think you have to ride that. And the collection of downs that you have will eventually teach you how to navigate the other downs that come ahead, isn't it?
That remind me a quote of John Kabat-Zinn that says, "You cannot stop the waves, but you can learn how to surf." So so yeah, that's
exactly
it. And also, I think that what you mean, and this is very important, not only in failure but on challenges of life, is to have the support, is to network, is to talk about it with someone that understands you and that can bring you some new insight or some new perspective. That's very useful, and that's also what we've been doing here. So I think it's what you mean about it's the possibility of talking about what you are going through, about your emotions. That I mean, it's you just said it. Our life is not only the ups, and then it has the downs, and so to be able to talk about the not so good things, and look, I've been through this and I felt this way and I dealt with it this way, and to also to be able to have the opportunity to explain why I did this. I acted this way because I felt it this way. I think that's really important, and I think that's something that it's missing in dentistry. That now it starts to appear, but until not so recently, it's we were not having these conversations. It's like we were not allowed to have these conversations. We were allowed to talk about failure also, but the clinical failure, just the technical part, the protocol that it didn't go well, not the part of you having to deal with the emotions of you failing due to the fact that the protocol didn't go well. Because so it's very, I think it's in the industry, it's these conversations are starting to appear, and that's very useful, because it's very helpful. It's very helpful.
And one of the things that this world connectivity now brings was exactly what you said. I think it's really fundamental to have the support of the family and friends. This is why it's so important to create a network and to nourish and to nurture your network, and to be able to be there when, just to keep your network of friends. It's really critical. They don't need to be 50 friends, but to have like a few friends that you really can count on, and doing for them things that are not expected. Just saying hi, or just calling them, or just doing them a favor out of nothing. I think this is really, because at the end of the day, this is how people will see you, right? And it's really important to give yourself. So yes, so the support of family and friends, it's really important. And as you were saying, but now there's also a new layer of support, which is, of course, it does not replace the first one, but it's for some people, sometimes it's the only lifeguard that they have, which is podcasts and books and online support groups. And in that sense, I really think that things have changed for the better, because you can really find some good online support with some groups and some people and some podcasts and some shows and some YouTube channels, and that's such a beautiful thing to see, because all of a sudden, even people that have very difficult, it's difficult for them to socialize. They still have that support. I don't think that replaces things. Don't get me wrong. I don't think this is the same thing. But I think that's a complementary way for you to feel support and to feel that someone also has the same problem as you, and this is how they dealt with it, and this is something normal, and this too shall pass.
And this was one of the reasons why we started our podcast, right? So that we talk about these things and to normalize, and because the message that I receive is like it's just like you said, it's someone saying, look, I listen, and it's so good to see that I'm not the only one feeling this. So it's especially in dentistry, where yes, it's very important to have the support of your family, of your friends, but there are certain things.
Let me ask you something. What is the type of people that gives feedback? Because people that give feedback to me are mainly from one age group and mainly from one sex. I'm curious, because I get a lot of feedback, and it's almost always from the same group. I wonder what's the group that you get most feedback from.
If you are saying that's mainly for women, mainly from women, probably because women are more open to talk about this subject. I think nowadays, usually
late 20s and 30s.
Even on my as on my mindful dentistry business, right? So I have more women than men. And the reason is because women are more open to learn and to even to prevent
and to say thank you.
Yeah, that's it. Men only reach out when they are in this position that they cannot handle it anymore, and at that time they will do anything. If you advise voodoo, maybe they will try it also.
I mean, they do listen. I know many dentists that do listen,
but they don't give that much feedback.
It's funny because most of the comments that I get, I mean, you look at the views on the list, but most of the comments sometimes I am in a dinner with a few dentists, and someone says, we are talking about some random thing, and someone says, well, but in the podcast you said this and that. I was like, out of nowhere. I was like, well, do you actually listen to the podcast? Yes, I do. I mean, I do listen sometimes, but most of them it's random. It's not like women. What they contact you and say, look, thank you for this. Thank you for talking about this. I would like to come and see you work. I think that the way that both of you bring things up, it's very important. And thank you. I was thinking about opening a practice. This is so important to me. I was in a bad situation mentally and emotionally, and this has been helping me a lot. So
women are more straightforward. Yeah. About emotions. It's true.
Yes, it's true. We have a lot. And we do have some things to learn.
Yeah, and also I think that women also, they say thank you more easily, like you said, and also they reach for help more easily. Also, in a stage that a more earlier stage, they reach for help in a more earlier stage. Men. They need to go through a lot and to endure a lot to ask for help.
Yeah, it's true.
But yeah, going back to failure, it's important to say that before we we go on the things that, okay, it's normal, it's a growing opportunity, all of that. But it's important to recognize that failure hurts. It's difficult. It's difficult. It's not easy. And it's important to recognize that, and to recognize all the emotions that come with it. Because and to give yourself time to feel those emotions, because you need to go through that. But they will those feelings will eventually start to fade away. But if you don't deal with that, what can happen is that you start to fear the failure process, and then this fear can freeze
block
you. You can it can block you. And then that can lead you to this fixed mindset that you are with fear of taking risks, and then you don't evolve, because one of the things that failure allows you is for you to evolve, because yes, you will learn from the experience, and next time you will do better. But if you don't allow yourself to recognize the emotions, and to hurt for a while, then you might develop this fear of the risk of failing, and the that sometimes it's a little bit disguised on the professionism thing, that you want things to be perfect. And but the first emotions are always difficult, and that should be recognized. And like you said, some failures are nasty, some failures are ugly, and it's not easy. And in dentistry, again, dentistry is so special because you can have all kinds of failure. You can have clinical failures with patients. You can have business failures. You can have management failures. I mean, there's a lot to unpack here. So let's start by the clinical failures. I remember not so long ago we talked on an episode of the podcast about emotional intelligence and emotional awareness.
Yes.
That you talked about the case that you had with that
and
you
the
had
same
some.
day.
Yeah.
It was very.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So basically, it is. I think I will never forget that. But basically, in the space of 2 months, I had 2 full mouth rehabilitations over implants that drastically failed. We are talking about patients that had their teeth, they had no dentures, they were nothing, and we did an immediate loading. We extract all the teeth, place implants, and place the provisional bridge. And one after 3 months came with some broken implants, with some failed implants. Long story short, both of them invested a few thousands of dollars, and I had to tell them, look, you will have to spend 6 months with complete full denture. So we are talking about not very old patients. And basically what at the end of the day, what I'm telling them is that if you want to go to a restaurant, you just have to place a lot of fixating paste, because it just and it's difficult. And I remember one of the cases was quite dramatic, because it was in the same day that we recorded the podcast. And there was this guy, it was a lower jaw. And I can never forget that they basically said, well, there's something moving here, and let's just unscrew the provisional denture. I had done that 3 months ago. And these 2 cases, they were with different implant brands, actually. I think there was lots of systemic issues, because both of them, they were having the lipidic profile that was not very good, which we know that now has a lot to do with bone biology. But basically, I just removed the denture, and he had some pain on the left side, and I just started to remove the multi-unit, and the one implant came, and I had my new nurse that was with me, and just removed the implant and let that metallic sound of the implant falling on the tray. And she was like looking to me, just like, well, is this normal? I mean, she was new. Is this, do people take implants out of their mouth? And I just came to it and I said, well, just we lost one, but it's okay. We can still keep the bridge. And then I just keep touching the others, and there was something not right. And then out of 4 implants, 3 actually failed. And I think I told this in the podcast, which is, when that time when you just remove the implants, you place them on the tray, and then you have this maybe 10, 20 seconds that you talk to yourself and you try to articulate something to say to the patient that is logical and that is honest. And you just have to tell them the truth at the end of the day. So there's no need to be spending there any second to think about. Just have to tell them, look, this is what happened. We just have a failure here. But even so, you have to articulate what you have to say, because this is what happened. And the consequence of this is that, yes, you had teeth, now you had implants, and now you're going to have a denture that will prevent you to go out and have a steak for the next couple of 3 to 6 months. And I at this stage in my career, I slept that night, but I thought about that for a couple of days, and I think that experience eventually, because the more implants that you do, the more failures that you see, right? And even if you play it safe, you will always have failures. But there's this very interesting thing in life, which is, and I think about this often, which is the confidence and the experience and the poise for you to be able to talk about these issues without making any drama. They come from confidence, right? From experience. And experience comes from failures. So the interesting thing about the profession is that if this had happened to me in my first, second, or third case, it would be a huge drama, right? But because it happened like 20 years down the road, it's not as much. So I think, and I feel very solidary, let's say, with young people that deal with dramatic failures. Because if you are a young guy, if you do your first implant and it fails, it's a big drama, right? Mm-hmm. So I often think, what would be the advice that I can give to young people? Because if you're experienced, you don't need that much advice because you've went through. The thing is that you have to go through these things. You have to go through these failures. And I think that actually the 2 best advice that I can give to them is that just to be prepared for failures. So if you are doing anything, just make sure that you write down exactly what's the script that you tell to the patient if something goes wrong, and what's the policy of the practice if you are going to do the job or not. So always have that useful pessimism with you. That's number 1. So do have a backup plan, whatever you are going to do. Of course, and that means that you have to have the adequate preparation and courses for that. That's number 1. And number 2, be as honest and as comprehensive as possible with the patient. Because I think that patients, they really respond positively when you are open and honest with them. Because I think that when we are young, and this is just to finish, when we are young, we usually try to fake it till we make it, right? It's very common. We use this persona of confident clinician, which we are still not, but we want to be that. And it's helpful in some ways. I don't think that fake it till you make it it's completely wrong. I think it has some positive sides. But the bad side of that is that sometimes you can use that to minimize the failure. I mean, it's okay. Or if you see a periimplantitis, this is okay. If you see some fracture of a recently placed post, this is okay, because you don't want to deal with the situation, right?
Yeah.
And so these were my two advice. So just look straight up front to the problem and make sure you have a backup plan. Whatever you are going to do, just make sure that you even rehearse that thing, that script. Look, this is what happened. This can happen. This is not math. This is medicine. This can happen. We are going to fix it for you. And you know how to fix that. Okay? You have a backup plan because you thought about that. And number two is to try to be honest and face the situation straight in the eyes and not try to hide it from it. And I think that I've done that. We have all done that in the past. Oh, this is not that. So this is not a big deal. I mean, because you don't want to. You don't have still that emotional capacity to be able to stand up front in the patient and look, this failed. It doesn't mean that it was my fault or your fault. This just failed. So sometimes this happens. Nothing in medicine is guaranteed, but we are here to fix it. So those would be my two pieces of advice for the young clinicians that deal with clinical failure.
I wrote a question here for you, but I think you just answered it because I think those advices that you just gave, it was what you used to yourself. But the question that I wrote here is, what do you think you had in yourself that kept you going after an epic failure? You know, because like you said, that situation that happened now with you were able to deal with it because now you have the capacity, the experience, the confidence in yourself and in your work, because you have 20 years of experience. But on your first years, and like you said, the ones that have 20 years of experience, they already have that capacity. So for the ones starting, these epic fails are very hard and very traumatic, sleepless nights, and it can mean it can freeze them. It can mean from them to it can really stop them from instead of seeing failure as an opportunity to learn and to be better, it can set them back in your work and even doubt of being dentists. So what do you think when you experience one of those failures? Because if you reach the position that you have now and the experience that you have now, like you said, is due to the failures. So you had also failures on the beginning of your career. What do you think you had in yourself that kept you going after one failure? Do you remember that? If you go back to the first years?
Think, and it's very interesting because I was thinking about that before the podcast. I deal with a lot of 20-year-old dentists that want to improve their skills, and every year more than 20. About 20 people that I am with them on an ongoing basis. And for example, even last week it was one of my ex-students, and she asked me to come and see me work because she says, well, I don't have any issues with single tooth dentistry, fixed prosto, one tooth, two teeth, but I want to do complex stuff. I want to do like full mouth rehabilitations and stuff like that. And yes, I did the course. I understand the theory, but I still don't feel confident to do that. And this is one kind of people. Some other people, they see the course, they read the books, they see your cases, they ask you questions, and within 1 or 2 years, you see that Instagram feed, and they are just pushing it and nailing it. And I always wonder, so what's the difference? Which is straight to the question that you are asking. So what is the difference? Why are some of us that way and some of us in other way? And yes, I think that mostly men, they have usually this more
striving. They're more willing to take risks.
Yeah, they are willing to take risks. Women are usually less. But for example, this girl that she came and she was seeing my appointments. She just had the baby. And of course, that at the end of the day, there's some logistics involved. I mean, if you have more free time to study, if you have more free time to dedicate yourself to the profession, chances are you will be better, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what do I think? What do I think is the difference? I think the mindset is the difference. It's not all about. Of course, it's not about if you are a man or a girl. Of course, that was just an observation. But there's a tendency.
But it's
yes,
true.
there is, and
it's
that's
true.
yes, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But I think at the end of the day, there's mindset. There's some people that they are just going for it. And I usually see this path, which is if you play the sport at the high level, if you play a sport at the high level, or if you are more into sports, if you are more into competition, you usually perform better in dentistry. That's one pattern that I see. Maybe because you're used to the competition, okay? That's one thing, mindset. And I think I always had that mindset. And for me, the mindset was, okay, I'm pretty confident that what I'm going to do is going to work. For example, the first veneers that I prepared, it was on one, she was a girlfriend of mine, and I published that on the European Journal of Aesthetic Dentistry, which is at that time it was the best European Journal of Aesthetics. And I published that case. Why was I able to do that? Because I was extremely well prepared. I read all the books about veneers, which were 2 at the time, or 3, the Gerard Schisch, then it was the Pascal Mann and the Calibro. I read those books from the end to the finish. I did the crown lengthening because I read Linda's book from the start to finish. So I read everything. There was no internet. I was extremely well prepared. I knew it. I was trusting the science. If I do this in this way, this will happen, right? So that mindset for me, and I don't know what happens from other people, for me, it's from self-study. For example, if I go to a place, if I go to a course, and if I see someone talking about something, I just completely assimilate that. That's the way that I learn. Some other people, they need to use their hands. Some other people, they need to use someone else. They need to see someone else doing that. So I think that mindset, logistics is important, but mindset. I mean, if you really want to make things well, you have to have the will. You need to have something that pulls you towards that. I mean, I want to be good. I want to do good dentistry. I want to do this. I want to do that. But the mindset and the confidence, they come from extremely well preparation. If you are very well prepared, chances are you will do well, right? So you have to really prepare yourself. In my case, I was, at least in theory, I was very well prepared because I knew exactly what I was doing. Now, if you want to go, if we talk about more advanced stuff like full mouth rehabilitation and stuff like that, which is the thing that I like to teach the most, it's not only about the technical part, but it's also about the way that you manage the patient, the way that you present treatment plan, the way that you do diagnosis, initial exam. It's a whole set of things that eventually will lead you to do like more hard and more expensive and more comprehensive. You have to have the initial examination, you have to have time to do the treatment plan, you have to make sure you communicate very well to the lab, you have to make sure you have enough time to do the case, you have to make sure that you deal with the patient without letting him cross boundaries. So this is the time that it will take. So don't try to please the patient. So if you are doing a more complex and more comprehensive work, yes, and this is one of the things that I try to, and we talked dozens of times here in the podcast about that if you really want to take your dentistry to the next level, you really have to make the logistics and make the environment to be able to allow that to happen. Okay, good initial examination, good treatment planning, enough time, good materials, set boundaries for the patient, extreme good communication. So if you set the stage, it will happen. So yes, there's logistics. I mean, you need to dedicate some part of your life to that. Yes, there's mindset. There's confidence that you need to know what you are doing. And if you want to do some more complex stuff, you need to set the stage, which is, and we talk a lot about that. We have many podcasts about that, initial examinations, treatment planning, adequate time. We had some wonderful discussions about that here in the podcast. So it's just set the stage for things to happen. And also you have to want to do it, because you may not want to do it. You may, and it's very, if you just want to do very simple dentistry, it's fine.
It's okay.
It's more than fine. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with it. Actually, very good.
And what you are saying is that for you to minimize the risk of failure, you have to be well prepared.
Yeah.
So if you are well prepared,
Yes.
chances are that you going to be successful. But okay,
Yeah.
there is always the risk of failure. So
Still failure.
another question. How, and you already talked about that also. Let's go back to that. So how do you prepare well also to failure? So you already said it,
exactly.
and you already said it. Do the script, no?
Do the
Be
script.
prepared if things fail. Be prepared if things failed, that you know what you're going to say. Always be authentic. Don't be able to listen inside that conversation that you are having with yourself, those seconds, those 10, 20, 30 seconds when the voice tells you, maybe I should for now today just tell him, it's okay, and be able to recognize that voice, and you say, no, that's a red flag, because you have to be able to recognize, to listen to your own thoughts is very very
it's
important,
very
because
tempting. Let's pretend nothing happened.
Yeah, that's it. So and this is part of you being well prepared for failure, because all of the things that you said and that we already talked a lot about, podcasts and protocols and systems, and be well prepared, that of course will lead you to success. But it's very important also, and we are talking about failure, to be well prepared for failure. And the red flags, the things, of course, what you said was an extreme example that implant that failed, that came out, but sometimes there are not so obvious things, but you still feel it, you still see, this is not going well. Don't ignore that. Yeah, that's it. And also I think that one of I found it wonderful that you said, to have the speech prepared, do make the script, because that's part of preparation. That's going to help you, for you not to go through the easy way, to like pretend that nothing is happening, and also one of the things that helps you to that is when you are doing something that that has a risk of failing, for you to be prepared, you also can ask the question, what's the worst thing that can happen?
That's Tim Ferriss style.
Yeah, that's it. So if it happens, you are prepared. So you can
some useful pessimism.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly it. Because sometimes, if you are just positive, it can lead to toxic positivity. That can lead to pretending that everything is okay. Pretending that everything is okay, and everything is not okay. So you can really take this very direct approach. What's the worst thing that can happen? And you can even make a list, and then you for every item you can elaborate a way that you can deal with that if that happens. What resources do you have if that outcome becomes a reality? So I think that that is very important, and for you to be prepared if there is a failure in a clinical situation, because of course, and success is more it happens more often. That's it, and it happens more often than failures, and that's a good thing. But I think that failure, and you said that this and you say it a lot of times in a beautiful way. I mean, dentistry is medical. We are dentistry with human tissues, so there is a failing risk in every clinical act that dentists perform. So I think it's very important that dentists be aware of this failure, and be aware that with failing, come not so good emotions, some negative emotions that they need to recognize, they need to feel them, but they need also to move on in a very authentic way. So being very assertive with the patient, being very honest with the patient, and being prepared. So being aware of what can happen and being well prepared to deal with that failure. So I think it's being well prepared. It's very important for the success, but being well prepared for the failure, it's also because I think it can make the difference from what we were talking before, that it you can learn after that and you can move on and be a striving factor for success, or it can freeze you and can get you stuck in this situation of fear and always afraid of taking risks and always afraid of evolving in your profession.
I was just here.
Yeah.
So I was just here taking some notes regarding what you were saying, and of course that when we talk about clinical failures, not necessarily errors, some things that I think they are important you were talking about, and which is this is a medical profession, and one of the things that I see that can be a huge trap when you market dentistry as something that is very easy. I mean, it's very tempting to play the positive dentist, the toxic positivity dentistry in marketing. Teeth in one day, everything is easy and cheap. I mean, if you market dentistry as if you market some sort of hairdressing company, chances are that it's very difficult to go from this very when you dress this persona in terms of marketing that everything is easy and everything is
possible,
is just
everything
positive.
is possible.
And if you are always in that positive mood, always in that full power mood with the patient, everything is amazing. I mean, if you bring that to dentistry, and I have nothing against that, but then when you have to go from there down here, which is now we are going to have to talk about a serious situation because we made an implant, you paid a few $1,000s and this has failed, and you have to go through the whole process again. This shift is more difficult. Does it make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it is more difficult. I'm not saying that people with experience, they cannot dance between these two moods, right? But for me, I think you have to, yes, you do have to go through these two moods, but always be in the background of your head, always remember that things can go wrong. And remember that the attitude that you are having now with the patient, you may need to have a difficult conversation. So always remember that. So because it's very easy to market dentistry as everything is easy. And this is one of the big mistakes of very positive marketing and very easy marketing about dentistry. That was number one. Number two is that, and I think this is a controversial issue, but I always give warranties, written down warranties to my patients. This does not mean that I believe in those warranties 100%. So basically, I just go and look at the studies and just implement the warranties there. I give a couple of years for ceramics and a couple of years for this and for that. And what I always tell my team is that the failure is a huge opportunity for marketing. So, for example, if I do a restoration and if it fails within 2 years or something like that, I think it's 2 years. If Teresa redoes the restoration, what happens is that she gets paid for that, right? Or if Luis does the restoration and then Teresa repairs it within 2 years, the patient does not pay anything. Teresa gets her share, and that share is removed from Luis. But the thing is that this is just a system that we have implemented because I think it's fair. But the most important thing is the mindset. The mindset behind is like, well, you have here an opportunity to show these patients that we are a different practice. because we are going to do the best possible restoration now with the best possible attitude. This is a huge opportunity to make good marketing, a good internal marketing move. That's one thing that I learned from Gary Vaynerchuk. It's very interesting. He says that when things are going very, very well with a big client, sometimes he says that you should make an intentional mistake because that gives you the opportunity to show your client how you handle this. That's a very interesting mindset. So it's like you are with your chest completely open. Look, I am here in such an authentic mood that I really want to help you as much as possible. And I think that's very interesting. And also the informed consent parts. I don't think that you have to be very pessimistic reading everything about informed consent, but you just have to have an honest conversation with the patient and a light conversation saying like, well, the worst thing that can happen is that we can eventually lose one implant. The success rate of implants is about 98, 97%. This can happen, but if it happens, we are here to sort it. So this simple conversation, like in a very calm manner. Nothing is guaranteed in medicine, and we are here to fix it if something goes wrong. And of course, at the same time, place some responsibility on the patient side, which is you have to quit smoking, you have to attend your hygienic appointments, you have to follow our instructions, etc., etc., etc. But just try to have a more medical approach and less cosmetic approach, in my opinion. I think because if you are very into cosmetics and everything is easy and fast and you'll be beautiful, you'll be amazing, you'll be younger, etc., etc., everything is amazing. If you just focus on that part, then the shift that you have to do if something goes wrong, because it will go wrong sooner or later, it's a bit different. It's more difficult.